was just a boy, I would think about the day when I leave this town and set out for the shining lights that never let me down. So I got on a ship with 22 bucks and a searching soul. I'm going to the promised land where streets are paved with gold.
Welcome to Hometown Chronicles USA, the podcast where every small town and city across the nation has a story to tell.
Join us as we uncover the rich tapestry of America's historical sites, weaving together the echoes of the past with the vibrancy of present-day happenings. From forgotten landmarks to bustling community events, we dive into the people who shape their hometowns, those who have been pivotal in building their community's legacy, and those carrying it boldly into the future.
Each episode celebrates the resilience, culture, and spirit of these local stories, highlighting the unique heartbeat of every corner of the country. Whether it's a historic main street, a thriving local business, or a tradition passed down through generations, Hometown Chronicles USA brings you closer to the places that make America extraordinary.
One community at a time.
But when I set foot on that newfound ground, I could feel the truth.
All right, so we are rocking and rolling. Cal, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Murph?
It's going good for a Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot that's what day it was.
Yeah. Who was that? That was Jason, right?
Yeah.
Isn't Jason Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th, yep.
Yeah. So we had Jason, we had Michael Myers, and of course we had Freddy, right? And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's also just generally a bad luck day usually, but I'm having a pretty good Friday the 13th.
Well, you know, sometimes when I think I do something that ends up being bad luck, it actually turns out to be good. So maybe I need to go get a lottery ticket today so we don't have to work. What are your thoughts?
That's it. Let's do it. We'll podcast full time.
Exactly. But no, welcome to the show, everybody. You know, I think one of the things that's very important, especially this being our first episode, is you know, us introducing ourselves, of course, and how our individual businesses kind of led to how we got started with Hometown Chronicles USA. So let's talk about it. What's up?
All right. How's it going? So where do you want to start? You want to start where we met?
Well, let's start with like our individual businesses to kick it off. So the world is yours, brother.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess I got started in history-related stuff with my bachelor's degree, right? Because I went to school for anthropology. I focused in archaeology. But even before that, I started my professional career as a photojournalist working for a newspaper in my hometown. And I just wanted to document everything. I mean, I liked taking pictures, and documenting things that were happening around town felt like a good purpose, a good thing to use that camera for. And so when I got that job as a stringer photographer for my local newspaper, there was no end to the assignments. Every day they would call me with different things to shoot, and it gave me a purpose and a reason to go out there and use that camera to document things. Fast forward to college. I continued photography through college, but I ended up with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, and I focused in archaeology. And I did so because I thought that would be a perfect mix for, you know, a photojournalist with a bachelor's degree in anthropology. Maybe I'll go get a job working for National Geographic or the Smithsonian or something like that. And I'll just travel the world documenting the human condition, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, just anything having to do with the human condition was what I was interested in documenting. I was able to get in touch with a National Geographic photographer during my last semester of college, and got really bad news about being a National Geographic photographer.
What, they weren't paying you the money?
Yeah, they don't hire photographers. He told me that there's maybe like 4 staff photographers, and the rest of them were totally self-funded. So
Dang.
All of their expeditions, all of their projects were self-funded. And his advice to me was, start a business that you can make a whole lot of money with, and then do the photography as a passion project, and then you can sell your projects essentially to these publications, and that's when you'll be able to make a living as a photographer. And I did not take that advice. I decided instead to spend my entire adult life pursuing a career as a professional photographer. So needless to say, I didn't make a lot of money. I never got that financial freedom that allowed me to travel the world and document things. I just spent my career freelancing and shooting various different types of photography, from weddings to theater and dance. I did two seasons in the NFL for an NFL team. I photographed a lot of different
You said
things.
like I did 2 seasons in the NFL, like you were behind the center catching the ball, throwing the passes.
No. I mean, there were a couple times where I almost got flattened by a player on the sidelines, but no, I was never in the action. But yeah, I did 2 seasons there shooting. And so, fast forward again a few years after doing that, I found myself with access to some 3D modeling equipment. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was using it, in service of shooting residential or commercial real estate listings. But my creative juices started flowing. I started thinking of other ways that I could use that equipment. And I realized that I could scan some historic sites with it. And so that's what I started doing. I went and I started scanning just old buildings, whatever I could gain access to. I scanned a couple cemeteries. I scanned some old buildings, and I just started posting them on a website, preservingspaces.com. It wasn't a business model or anything. It was just sort of my passion project. And I thought, some people blog recipes, some people blog fashion. I'm going to blog 3D models of historic houses. And so I started doing that. I started modeling these historic sites, and I just started posting them on my website. In the meantime, I was kind of becoming more involved with my community as well. We had just moved to North Carolina, and I started making some friends and becoming more involved. I naturally got involved with the historic preservation community here, and some of the contacts that I made led me to various different groups and organizations. And all of a sudden, people started offering me to pay me to scan some of these historic sites. And so I did a couple of those projects, and I started incorporating some video that I'd been doing, some photos, and creating these immersive tours for museums and local historic sites and organizations, so that they could have an immersive experience where people could walk through their site, but then maybe also see a video vignette that we filmed, or maybe some photos or historic documents. And I guess that's how we met eventually. At a certain point. There was a local historic site here that I still to this day am not entirely sure why they gave me access, because it was a pretty big site, but they gave me access to the entire facility, and they're like, sure, go scan whatever building that you want to. And so I scanned that entire facility, and you and I had met there during a conversation with where they were looking out for local people that were involved in the historic community to come and provide feedback on how to interpret the history there. And I was way out of my depth for that.
You
meeting.
think so?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All I knew was how to scan stuff, but I mean, I was so naive on local history. I was definitely out of my depth. So some of the stuff that you said that day resonated with me. I think before you ever even had any clue who I was. You said stuff that I still carry with me to today. Some of the other people there were like talking about reading barrels full of historic documents and learning everything about anybody who lived on that property and what they had said and written. I mean, it was fascinating, the stuff that people were doing in relation to that site. And so that's when we first met, but we didn't actually start collaborating until a few years later, when we met at another event for that same site, actually, that we were both invited to. And so we exchanged numbers, and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, that was that. And, me coming from a different background as well, I still am a licensed clinical mental health therapist. And I want to say it was like 2016 is when I got burnt out with doing so much therapy, because I was the only therapist at the institution that I was at for years. And so I'm talking no vacation, just constantly on 24/7 with making sure that the students that I was working with were well. I worked at a level of on the level of higher education. And so, you have students on the campus for the fall. You have students on campus for the spring, and then you have summer school. And so, as a therapist and being the director of counseling, I was responsible for all that. And so, history had always been a thing that I loved. Small towns, hometowns have always been a thing that I loved, just because, I come from a small town in Tennessee, was raised there, called Clarksville, Tennessee. And there was just so many cool, intricate things about that town and the people that, as an adult, when you look back, you realize, this may not just be where I'm from, right? Like, there's a lot more unique things that have happened, or these different landmarks, or these places that people go that not only I've been to, but my grandparents have been to, my great grandparents and my great great grandparents, right? So it holds more weight than just being a hometown. So I became very interested in interviewing and talking with people about the details of those things, right? And in doing such, I got back into my oral history bag, if you will, and I started traveling throughout the South, interviewing individuals about their specified experiences during Jim Crow. Initially through a oral history project, but then it turned into a film venture, right? Because I turned that oral history series into a film, which is titled The American South as We Know It. And that was my very first project back in 2016. Myself and Andrew Smith, a DP and audio guy with A1 Day One Productions. He and Kelvin Smith worked together, and I've been working with them forever. And so, from there, I was like, I got the bug. I was like, there's not this mono track thing anymore for me as it relates to just being a therapist. Like, now we're live in stereo. You know what I'm saying? We're brighter, we're louder, we're doing all those things. And then that's when I dived into just making films. And now I've been involved in about 14 projects right now, currently. And it's been pretty amazing to have this journey and to have something that provides some balance from what it is that I do, or what it is that we both do as being family guys on a daily basis. And I think that it helps when we talk about legacy, being a good father, being a good son, being a good grandson, and all those things. That's great, right? But those are things that we're supposed to do. So what are the things that we are able to do outside of what we're quote unquote supposed to do that also creates a sense of legacy? And so, us connecting with Hometown Chronicles USA and making this a reality, is pretty dope. And we met that last time we met in Brooklyn, which was a neighborhood here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was unfortunately razed during quote unquote urban renewal and displaced thousands of people. And so I'm an empath to that. I know you are an empath to that. And so because of that, we were like, we might as well start this journey and start documenting some of these things, because the fact of the matter is, if it's not documented, then people will never believe that it happened. And so with Hometown Chronicles USA, that's what we're doing. We're documenting people's lives. We're documenting historic sites. We're documenting local businesses. We're providing a platform to where these people who are oftentimes misrepresented, underrepresented, will now have the opportunity to do such. So that's the gist of it all.
Yeah, I mean, you phrased that beautifully. I've got a question for you, because I'm curious, like, when you did your first video project, so you started off just recording oral histories. That was your whole goal?
Yep, my whole goal was just to do oral histories. That's it. But
how did that turn into filming them? Because that's a big step.
It's a huge step. But it's because I needed people to see when these people teared up. I wanted them to see how uncomfortable they may have been, or how proud they may have been talking about these things. And because we are a much more visual society, and even what we were 2 years ago, right? It's just like things from a visual effect have become more and more advanced on a daily basis, damn near. I wanted to make sure that was something that was captured. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to run up some credit card bills, get a camera, hire a person, and then that's how it amplified into being films. And I've just become hooked ever since. And so I don't ever think I'll stop capturing humanity through that modality. So yeah, that's how it started.
That's wild.
That's how
so
it ended
literally
up.
that first oral history project, you said, I'm just going to go out and buy some professional camera gear and turn this into a film project. And then so you brought on Andrew and Kelvin for that one.
I brought in Andrew first. So Andrew
Yeah.
and I did the first two, and then we brought Kelvin in on Sweet Home Alabama, a Chief and His Protege, which was with Joycelyn Davis, who's a descendant of the Clotilda, which is the last enslaved ship that came in to the United States illegally, 52 years after the transatlantic slave trade was to had ended. So yeah.
I mean, you dove right in.
I dove right in.
What? No prior camera experience, I guess. Then, right?
No.
And
no
you're
prior
like, yeah,
camera
we're going to
experience.
cover these extremely heavy topics, and you're just going to go for it. We're just going to do the
Most
dang
definitely.
thing.
That's it. But when you think about it, that's kind of
Yeah.
how you and I jumped in too when we
Yeah, okay.
started, right? Because think
Yeah.
about it, like when we talk about what we've been up to, which is another topic point that we have for this episode. The very first video that we did was the Quaker one, right? Like there was the
No, Anson County was the first one.
Oh
did.
yeah, Anson County,
Yeah.
up there with Steve, right?
Steve,
and so so we didn't. I mean, we were just like, okay, we're gonna make it work, right?
Yeah,
You bought the
yeah.
Osmo, and then you had the.
We didn't even have that at that point.
No,
I
we
was
didn't have
carrying-
that. Yeah,
I was
you were.
carrying my Nikon gear on
Yeah, the
on
Nikon.
a gimbal, which was real heavy way to do that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very archaic at this point because
Yeah.
the handheld
Yeah, 'cause-
Osmo does just as good, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, my background is really still photography.
Yeah.
Like I've got almost 20 years of experience shooting stills. So you want me to go and document something with stills? No problem. I'll put my camera on, throw my harness on, take my cameras out, and cover it. You want me to film something when people are walking up and down the busy street? That for me was a whole different game. So yeah. But having had the conversations that we had had prior to that, and having worked on some of your other film projects with you, because we did the second part for the American South as you know it before we did the YouTube stuff. So after meeting, going out and shooting with you and meeting Andrew and Kelvin, I was like, yeah, this isn't an opportunity that I want to let pass. We'll just take our camera gear out there and we'll film what we can. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy with how that first YouTube video turned out.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty fun watch.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's the point of everything with what it is that we do anyway, whether it's us over, talking with people, because we will have guests on this podcast, of course, as well. We already have some people that are lined up. It's like, just how do we speak to things on a basic level that's not something that some people won't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that so many people get caught up in degrees. I have degrees. You have degrees. Like, we all get caught up in that sometimes. And I think that that's based on the status quo that people would like to see certain people at, throughout their lifetime. But I'm just a regular guy that just loves to do these things. You strike me as the same, and it brings us joy. And the people who we talk to don't have egos into this whole thing, and they just want people to be educated, whether it's on their hometown, whether it's at a historic site, whether it's on future happenings or current things that are happening in the United States. And that's what it's all about, and that's the beauty of us capturing these things with Hometown Chronicles USA. So whether it's going down to Anson County, which is a small county right outside of Mecklenburg County, which is where we're at here in Charlotte, North Carolina, or going to the low country, or going to the mountains, or the multiple places that we've been, it's fun, and it's something that I feel like our listeners will be able to say that I can relate to that, because that reminds me of something that I had experienced during my youth or what have you, for sure.
Yeah, people love to tell their stories. They love to talk about the things that they're passionate about. And it's a great fit because I love listening to that. We've had some super cool experiences so far just with the YouTube thing. I mean, spending a whole day with you and just going out to, a sculpting studio and just hearing about sculpting, something I know nothing about. I don't know anything about the business side of it. I don't know anything about the actual physical, like, sculpting side of it. And then tying in the whole history aspect of it too, and doing it with a purpose and telling somebody's life story through a single sculpture. I mean, it's been an extremely fulfilling experience so far.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that was at Warford Studios. So we did that. We were with Marty as well, and that was at the whole Hoyle Homestead. So you all make
Yep.
sure to check out that episode as well. That's actually been our best episodes, part 1 and part 2, at the Hoyle Homestead, which is an old home built in the 1700s in Gaston County, North Carolina. And then we were with Brother Sam Wayman, who is the brother of Nina Simone, who's an extraordinary musician within his own right, and he's back in Tryon, North Carolina, doing a lot of great things. In Waxhaw, we did the Waxhaw Museum down there, and some historic sites and things like that transpired in that area.
Yeah, as of recording, we're still releasing some of those episodes.
Yep, still releasing some of those episodes. And who am I missing? What else have we? Who else have we captured? Oh, the Quakers.
Put me on the spot like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
The Quakers. Yeah, the three fellas up there. Tom, golly, I don't want to miss anyone's names.
Ron and James.
Yep.
And
yeah,
Max.
Tom, Ron, and James. Yeah, and Max.
Max.
So, no, not Tom. Ron, James,
And Max.
Yeah. And so, eliminate Tom. There was no Tom there. But yeah, so learning about the Quaker culture as well as the outdoor theater is something that was absolutely amazing. And so if you all aren't hip to, outdoor theaters, that's something that you can look at on a previous episode.
That was super cool to me because I have a background in shooting theater and dance. I'm interested in theater and dance. I love live performance. I had no idea that this was a thing. And then the through line with that was after we spent all that time with them, then we went down to Waxhaw and we met up with Megan.
And there was another one.
She shows us another outdoor theater.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is a real thing. I mean, I know they told us when we were there in Guilford County, or
County.
when we were out there at their outdoor theater, they told us how many there were here in North Carolina, and how some of them are still there, but
some of them are on the
aren't.
beach as well. Yeah, some of them were near the beach
and
as well.
I had no clue that it was such a big thing. It's super cool.
Yeah.
I really look forward to going to one or two of them, maybe.
Yeah, most definitely. So, that's I think that kind of goes into like our next point here is like, what would we like for people to gain from this podcast? Being that this is our initial episode and we're introducing people to ourselves and some of the things that we've already done, but what are some of the things that you are hoping for listeners to gain from the podcast?
Well, there is a lot of conversation that we can't include on YouTube. I mean, a lot. I mean, we sometimes talk with these people for another hour after we film with them. Some of them have offered to take us out to lunch. We've gotten to become friends with some of the people that we've met through the YouTube channel and that we've filmed.
Sure.
We're working on larger projects with some of them, and I mean, honestly, maybe more of them than not, we have the potential to work on larger projects with them as far as full-length documentaries or just longer YouTube videos or whatever it is. That's stuff that I would love to bring onto this podcast. I'd love to invite some of those people on and talk to them in the long form, just sort of a casual conversation, because those conversations that we've had so far have been so fulfilling for me. Mean, I mean it when I tell you that sometimes I go home after filming with you for a day and I just feel so fulfilled with what I'm doing. And I haven't felt that way about my work in a long time. Maybe ever. This might be the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I know it's not paying the bills yet.
Right.
One day it will. But it's just so fulfilling. And I would love to bring those conversations and just those experiences to light. I think there is unlimited room on these platforms for more of these conversations and for people to just get their stories out. And for me, that's what drives me forward.
Most definitely, man. And it's the same for me, right? Like, I think that people sometimes feel as if you have to have this super duper advanced material, and you have to be the expert of right. Yeah,
sometimes
one
I
of
get
them.
a little bit too stuck in
or that you have to just have this experience in doing X, Y, and Z to be a storyteller and to capture stories. Man, modern technology has made it so simple that it's just literally by hitting record on your phone now. You just got to have the storage. That's the only thing, is you got to have the storage. But we should all take on that responsibility of creating legacy or preserving one's legacy or a town's legacy, whether they're doing good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, by capturing that and of course recording that. And that's what I'm hoping that this podcast does, that it amplifies people's opportunity or their thought process of saying that, hey, I can do that too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I may not necessarily have all the bells and whistles and have this huge studio or what have you, but what I'm saying and the content is meaningful, and it's meaningful enough to where it can capture the audiences of people that may have had similar lived experiences in which I've had, right?
We just need to platform it.
Yeah, we just need to platform it. And the thing is, there's multiple ways in which you can do such. There's so many platforms now that are available. And it's just stepping out there and believing in yourself and doing it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my hope as it relates to what we would like for people to gain from this podcast, which is going to be a pretty dope podcast. So make sure that you subscribe as well.
Yeah, again, I just love how you phrase that, because, you know, I'm of two minds of it. You know, when we're making our stuff and we're putting it out there, you know, I obsess over it. I want to get better. I want it to be more technically, I just want it to be technically better. I want to increase my skills technically. And I always want what we put out to be better and better and better. And I know that we will get better when we go along the way, but I think there's also a lot of value in just doing it. Just going out there with your phone and filming if you have to, because it does show people that they can do it as well. And look, for me, a YouTube feed full of that kind of material is so much more interesting to me than turning on Netflix and seeing whatever new reality series that they put on there, you know, or the next big superhero film or something. I would way rather turn on YouTube and just watch a bunch of people with their cell phones in a field talking about growing up in that field.
That's it. Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's the gist of it, y'all. Welcome to Hometown Chronicles USA. You can expect to hear a whole lot more of this. And we have some amazing guests that are going to be joining us along this journey. And we would greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate if you look at some of the previous things in which we've already released. And, you know, if you have any recommendations for us, any people, any places, businesses, or what have you, hey, let us know. You can shoot us an email. We'll leave everything in the link within the summary or the description of this podcast if you're watching via YouTube. And we welcome it all. We just want to make sure that we are good stewards and provide a voice and a platform for people like you and us to continue to thrive and share stories. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping that this does, and I hope that you all feel that same energy.
Yeah, you can get in touch with us on Instagram at Hometown Chronicles USA. YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave comments in the YouTube comments. We'll check that. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or another podcast, audio only, that's great. You can visit www.hometowncroniclesusa.com.
Yep.
And I will try and keep that updated with everything that we're putting out, whether it's video content or audio content, as well as, you know, you can reach out to us, and eventually one day we'll be adding more stuff there. You can find more ways that you can support us so we can keep doing this.
Yep, most definitely. And Cal's individual business is Preserving Spaces, and mine is History Before Us. And as a collective, we are Hometown Chronicles USA. So we greatly appreciate everyone. Have a great weekend. Talk soon.
Talk to you soon.
Peace. Thanks for joining us again on Hometown Chronicles USA. If you loved this episode, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and social media. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Show notes and all things Hometown Chronicles USA can be found at our website, www.hometowncroniclesusa.com.